I sold my company for $43 million, planning to celebrate with my son and his wife at one of the city's best restaurants. But as they danced, a security guard leaned in and whispered, "Your son slipped something into your drink." My chest tightened. Betrayed by my own son. I stood up and walked out. 20 minutes later, consequences found him. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and share in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. Dad, you're destroying our future. Simon's voice cut sharply across the silence of my penthouse. I kept stirring his favorite Manhattan, the sound of ice clinking against crystal filling the room. Outside, Manhattan's lights glittered, but inside, the warmth was gone. Simon, I've made my choice. I'm selling HICTech in a month. The words felt heavy, even though I had rehearsed them for weeks. 42 years of work reduced to one sentence. Simon froze mid-step, color draining from his face. Dad, you can't do this. This is our family business. I handed him the glass. His fingers shook as he accepted it. Family business, I said. You don't even know how the software functions. Ida looked up from her notepad, where she had been scribbling through our conversation. Her eyes carried more calculation than support. Irving, maybe you should think this through, she said, her tone sweet but edged with pressure. After years of watching her influence Simon, I knew her methods well. I set my glass down firmly, the sound echoing. I've been considering this for 3 years. My decision is final. Simon waved his arms in frustration, like he was orchestrating a performance of panic. What about my role? What about our future? You're throwing away everything we've built. Everything I've built, I corrected. You've only been drawing a paycheck. Ida's pen scratched faster across the page. Whatever she was noting, it wasn't meeting minutes. Simon slammed his glass down, spilling liquor across my Persian rug. This is madness. You're only 65. You could run HICTech for another 10 years. I could, I replied calmly, but I won't. Even I was surprised by the firmness in my voice. Months of doubt had vanished. I want to travel, Simon. To see the pyramids, walk Tokyo's streets, sit on Thailand's beaches without checking emails. Then hire a CEO and keep the business. Keep the family! His tone was desperate now, sweat gathering on his forehead despite the cool air. And leave you in charge to make reckless choices you don't understand? I said. Ida rose smoothly, clutching her notepad like a shield. Irving, surely there's a middle ground. Simon has worked so hard, I almost laughed. Hard? He came in late, left early, and spent afternoons golfing with clients who only tolerated him because of my name. The decision is made. Ida. Tomorrow I'm meeting Titus Grant to finalize the sale. Simon's face flushed red, his anger boiling over. And Grant? You're selling to Grant Tech? They're our main rival. They're offering $43 million in cash. The figure hung in the air like a quiet revelation. Enough to live without worry for the rest of my life. Simon dropped into a leather chair, head in his hands. You're ruining everything, Dad. Everything. But I felt lighter than I had in decades. The burden of responsibility, the endless stress, the task of covering Simon's failures, it was all falling away like unlocked chains. Ida placed a hand on Simon's shoulder, her gaze fixed on me. When exactly is this happening? She asked softly. Next month. The paperwork is already in motion. Her grip tightened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of something sharp in her expression. Then it vanished as quickly as it came. The evening stretched ahead, heavy with unspoken tension and old resentments. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, the air felt like an ending. Simon lifted his head from his hands, and I noticed a new look in his eyes. Calculation, desperation, but a sudden focus. Okay, wait. Let me think. He stood and paced slowly around the coffee table. Maybe we could hire a manager. Make me a full partner. I stayed seated, swirling the ice in my glass. The desperation was almost painful to watch. Simon, you're not ready to run the sales department, I said. The truth hit him like cold water. His jaw tightened, but he kept pacing, searching for options. Then teach me. Give me 6 months. I'll prove myself. You've had 12 years to prove yourself. Ida's pen moved quickly across her notepad. Whatever plan she was forming, she was writing it down. Simon stopped and faced me. What if I bought you out gradually? I could get investors, bank loans, keep it in the family. With what money? I asked. You owe $17,000 in credit card debt. Your mortgage is underwater. What investor would trust you with $43 million? The silence that followed was enormous. Ida's pen stilled. Simon's shoulders sagged. The fight left him like air from a punctured balloon. All right, Dad, he said quietly, defeated. If this is your final decision, I respect it. The words sounded hollow, rehearsed, but I wanted to believe them. That's right, son. It's time for everyone to go their own way. I stood and moved to the bar, pouring a scotch. The ice clinked as I added 2 cubes. You'll be fine, Simon. Both of you will. The sale includes severance packages. You'll have time to find something new. Ida snapped her notepad shut. Of course, Irving. We understand. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Simon moved to the window and stared at the city lights. His reflection seemed ghostly. 43 million, he said softly. That's life-changing money. It is. I planned to change my life completely. I thought of the travel he'd mentioned. The pyramids, Tokyo, places on a list I'd actually started 3 months earlier. Countries I'd postponed for decades while building the company. Ida smoothed her skirt. This has been quite an evening. Simon, perhaps we should head home. Let your father rest. Simon nodded without turning, walked over and shook my hand. His grip was firm but distant. Congratulations, Dad. I hope you get everything you're looking for. The word should have pleased me. Instead, it landed like a goodbye that meant more than it should. Ida kissed my cheek. Take care, Irving. This is a big decision. They gathered their things quietly. Simon's coat, Eda's purse, her notepad tucked inside. At the door, Simon paused. I love you, Dad. You know that, right? I love you too, son. The words were true, which made everything harder. After they left, I stood in the empty living room, scotch in hand, watching the city breathe below. Tomorrow I would meet Titus Grant. Tomorrow I'd begin dismantling what I'd built. Tonight, for the first time in months, I felt at peace. The grandfather clock chimed 9 times. The evening was still young, and I felt ready for what came next. Morning coffee steamed in my favorite mug as I sat in my home office, surrounded by 4 decades of decisions. Sunlight warmed the mahogany desk where I'd made the choices that shaped my life. A framed photograph caught my eye. Me in 1983, 23, standing in front of a cramped Brooklyn garage with a crooked smile and big dreams. Who could have guessed that dream would become 43 million? I studied that young man's face. So certain, so hungry, unaware of failures, breakthroughs, sleepless nights. The coding that burned my eyes. The first year was brutal. 3 software projects no one wanted. Dwindling bank accounts, ramen for dinner. Sarah, God rest her, worked double shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat while I chased the impossible. Then came the breakthrough. I pulled another photo from the drawer. The first office we could afford. A basement in Queens with flickering fluorescent lights and leaking pipes. That's where we built Accounting Pro. Maybe not revolutionary, but it changed things for small businesses. Simple interface, useful features, priced for companies that couldn't buy big corporate solutions. Our first major contract came when Peterson Manufacturing's system crashed, and they lost 3 months of records. They were desperate and willing to try something new. $50,000. I remember staring at that check until Sarah had to take it and walk it to the bank. From then on, everything accelerated. Word spread. Accounting Pro became the trusted software for small businesses. We added features, hired programmers, moved offices. By 1990, we had 20 employees. By 2000, over 100. The garage days felt like someone else's past. I sipped coffee and looked at frames on my wall. The first $500 check from a Bronx restaurant owner, $500 to $43 million. The American dream in numbers. But success demanded costs. 70-hour weeks, missed baseball games, falling asleep at my desk. Sarah understood until the cancer took her 5 years ago, and then the weight really settled on me, building something for family while family slipped away. Simon never cared about the technical side. He wanted the benefits, the status, the easy roll without grasping the foundation beneath it. Eda made it worse. I remember her calculating Simon's inheritance value at our wedding, taking notes about company assets during the reception. I pulled out the latest financial reports. Hicks Solutions was solid, profitable, and growing. We had clients in 37 states, our software running in thousands of businesses. But I was exhausted, deeply, completely. The phone buzzed. It was Titus Grant's office confirming our meeting later that afternoon. Mr. Hicks. Mr. Grant is looking forward to discussing the acquisition details. So was I. $43 million, enough to travel the world twice. Enough to finally live instead of just working. I stood and walked to the window. Central Park stretched below, alive with spring. Joggers moved along the paths. Children played. People fed the ducks. That was real life, not conference rooms and profit margins. Simon would be fine. He was smart enough, even if a little lazy. Ida would see to it that he landed on his feet. She had invested too much in him to let him fail. The decision felt right in the morning light. Selling wasn't betrayal. It was freedom. I finished my coffee and gathered the documents for the meeting. Contracts, financial statements, asset valuations. The paperwork that turned dreams into reality. In just a few hours, I would sit across from Titus Grant and begin the final chapter. Hicktek's story would close, but Irving Hicks's story would move forward. The afternoon sun cut through my office windows, casting golden light across the reports spread on my desk. Numbers that once kept me awake now looked almost poetic. Profit margins, growth percentages, market expansion. For 40 years I had built this empire. Now it was time to enjoy it. Tokyo, Paris, Tuscany, so many places I had never seen. I pulled out the map on my wall, tracing the routes I had dreamed of for decades. The cherry blossoms would be blooming in Tokyo. I could walk through Ueno Park, visit ancient temples and eat ramen from street vendors. On my laptop, the quarterly reports showed revenue up 18%, client retention at 94%, downloads surpassing projections by 30%. Hicktek had become what I envisioned in that Brooklyn garage, but the numbers felt distant now, almost like someone else's work. I opened a leather-bound notebook from my desk. Travel planning, something I had never had time for. Paris first, I muttered, writing carefully. The Louvre, Notre Dame, the little cafes Sarah had always wanted to visit. Sarah. She would have loved to see this moment. Me finally stepping away from the desk that consumed so many years of our marriage. She understood the drive, the need to build something lasting. But she also knew when enough was enough. Beside me lay the Tuscany guidebook, rolling hills, vineyards, stone cottages where life moved at the pace of wine. Not New York. I could rent a villa, learn Italian, finally write the memoir I had postponed for decades. My phone buzzed again. Titus Grant's assistant confirming our meeting for Wednesday. 2 days left to finalize everything. I closed the laptop firmly. The Hicktek era was ending, but my next chapter was only beginning. Standing, I stretched muscles stiff from decades at a desk. My body ached in ways that reminded me I was no longer 23. At 65, maybe I had 20 good years left, 20 years to live instead of just work. A photo on my shelf caught my eye. Our first office Christmas party in 1987. 12 employees, including Sarah, gathered around a plastic tree in the basement office in Queens. Everyone looked so young, so full of hope. Now Hicktek had over 200 employees across 4 offices. Our software ran accounting systems for thousands of businesses, restaurants, clinics, construction companies, all depending on code I had once written in that cramped basement. Titus Grant respected technology and valued good people. The company would keep growing under Grant Tech. I walked back to the window overlooking Central Park. Joggers followed the winding paths. Couples sat on benches. Children played. Life moved at its own pace. Tomorrow I would review the final contracts. Wednesday I would shake Titus's hand and sign the papers that would change everything. By next week, I would be free. The travel brochures scattered across my desk showed the world waiting. Temples in Kyoto, wine tastings in Bordeaux, galleries in Florence, museums in Prague. All of it within reach now, possible because I had built something worth selling. My notebook filled quickly. Flights, hotels, itineraries. 6 months of travel to start, maybe more if the urge to wander held on. For the first time in decades, there were no deadlines except my own. No employees depending on my choices, no reports demanding my attention, just an old man with new dreams and the money to chase them anywhere. The grandfather clock chimed 4 times. Wednesday couldn't come soon enough. That afternoon, the Hick Tech conference room felt different. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany table where I had made countless decisions. At 2:00 sharp, Titus Grant arrived, his handshake firm and confident. Everything about him spoke of capability. Silver hair neatly styled, navy suit tailored to perfection, and sharp eyes that overlooked nothing. "Irving, your company is exactly what Grant Tech needs to expand." His tone carried the confidence of a man used to making million-dollar decisions. "I value directness in business." "I'm glad Hick Tech will be in capable hands, Titus." We settled into leather chairs as my assistant served coffee. The familiar ritual of corporate negotiation began, though this time the stakes felt deeply personal. Titus opened his briefcase and pulled out thick folders, draft contracts, financial projections, transition plans, documents that would turn my life's work into figures on a balance sheet. "Your software architecture is impressive. Clean code, scalable design, excellent documentation." He had done his research, and I respected that. 40 years of refinement, I replied. "Every mistake taught us something, it shows. Your client retention rates are remarkable." The conversation moved smoothly, 2 professionals speaking the same language. There was no manipulation, no unnecessary performance, only practical negotiation aimed at a fair outcome. I presented carefully prepared portfolios, client testimonials, growth forecasts, and technical specifications, all organized with the precision that had built Hick Tech's reputation. "Your team is strong," Titus noted while reviewing profiles. "We'd like to retain most of them. They deserve stability. 43 million is a fair price for such an asset." The number still sounded unreal, 43 million far more than I could ever spend. Yet it was fair. He was buying proven technology and trusted relationships. Titus smiled, the kind of smile that closed deals. "Deal. We'll finalize paperwork next week." We shook hands, a moment that felt historic, like signing a peace agreement after a long battle. My assistant appeared with champagne, a Dom Perignon 2015 reserved for special occasions. The cork popped with celebratory precision. "To new beginnings," Titus raised his glass. "To successful partnerships," I replied. The champagne tasted like victory, crisp, clean, layered with complexity, like a good business relationship. We spent another hour covering transition details, employee contracts, client communication, technical transfers, the slow dismantling of 40 years of careful construction. It was painful, yet necessary, like watching a child leave home. "Your son will be taken care of during the transition?" Titus asked. "Purely professional. Simon will receive the same severance package as the others. It's time for him to build his own path." "Fair enough. Independence builds character." His words reflected hard-earned wisdom. Titus understood the balance between loyalty and necessity. By 4 o'clock, everything was settled. Preliminary agreements signed, timelines outlined, expectations clear. Final signatures and transfers would follow next Wednesday. "Irving, it's been a pleasure. You've built something remarkable. Thank you. I'm confident you'll carry it further." After Titus left, I stood at the window, looking down at Manhattan's restless streets, people chasing deadlines and dreams. Soon I would join them, not as a businessman, but as someone with time to notice life beyond profit margins. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Simon, likely asking about the sale. For once, I had good news to share. The champagne left me optimistic, perhaps even hopeful about healing strained family ties. At home, signed contracts lay across my coffee table like banners of victory, final sale documents, wire confirmations, dissolution papers. My life's work, now complete. I poured myself a scotch and reached for my phone. Simon answered on the second ring. "Dad, how did it go?" His voice carried energy, even excitement. "Simon, it's official. The company is sold. Let's celebrate tonight at Bella Vista." Saying the words felt surreal. 42 years turned into past tense. Congratulations, Dad. Ida will be thrilled. What time? His tone made me smile. He seemed ready to accept this new chapter. 8 o'clock. Terrace table, Parkview. We'll be there. And Dad, I'm proud of you. Those words touched something deep inside me. It had been years since I'd heard them. Thank you, son. That means everything. After the call, I rang the concierge. Giuseppe, I need a reservation at Bella Vista tonight. Something special. Terrace seating. Parkview if possible. Congratulations. Mr. Hicks. I'll arrange the perfect table. Giuseppe had managed the building for 15 years. He knew when to ask questions and when to simply deliver. The shower felt like luxury. Hot water washing away decades of corporate weight. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, silver tie, Italian leather shoes. Tonight required formality. My reflection in the mirror showed the same 65-year-old man, lined with years of responsibility, but lighter, unburdened. The scotch left me thoughtful, ready for what came next. How many celebrations had I missed while building HickTech? Birthday dinners postponed for urgent meetings, anniversary trips canceled for product launches. Time exchanged for money, and then money spent to buy back time. Sarah would have laughed at the irony. I picked out a vintage watch from my collection. A Patek Philippe I had bought to mark our first $1 million year, yet never worn. Tonight felt right for bringing it out. The evening stretched ahead with promise. Good food, fine wine, family conversation free from business shadows. From my window, Central Park glowed in the fading light. Couples strolled along tree-lined paths. Children played while parents watched from benches. Ordinary life, the kind I often observed but rarely joined. My phone buzzed. A text from Yeppe. Bella Vista table confirmed. Prime Terrace, 8 p.m., champagne service ready. Perfect. Simon and Ida deserved a proper celebration. Despite our recent tensions, they were family. The only family I still had. I straightened my tie, checked the time. 7:15. Enough to cross the park and arrive fashionably on time. My eyes fell once more on the contracts resting on the coffee table. Legal papers ending 4 decades of connection. Tomorrow I would wake up retired. No company to run, no employees to consider, no quarterly reports waiting. Just Irving Hicks. Wealth beyond need. And finally enough time to rediscover the man I was before business consumed everything. The air outside was crisp, perfect for a celebratory dinner. Fine Italian food, excellent wine, family conversation about the future instead of corporate demands. I grabbed my keys and headed for the elevator, lighter than I had felt in years. Tonight we would raise a glass to new beginnings. Bella Vista's entrance glowed with warm amber light as I approached through Central Park's evening shadows. Simon and Ida stood waiting beneath the restaurant's awning, their figures framed by lanterns strung across the terrace. Dad. Simon's embrace felt sincere, almost urgent. Ida kissed both cheeks, her smile polished. Irving, you look wonderful. Success suits you. The hostess led us to our terrace table. Manhattan sparkled below like scattered diamonds. Central Park stretched into darkness, alive with new beginnings. I raised my glass, lighter than I had in decades. To you, Dad. You deserve happiness. Simon's words carried a sharp note. I assumed it was excitement. Our glasses touched under the swaying string lights. The sound rang bright, celebratory. Ida ordered for the table. Osso buco, risotto, Caesar salads. Everything felt perfect, almost staged, like a scene of a family celebrating success. Irving, tell us about your travel plans. Ida leaned in with interest. Japan first. I've always dreamed of cherry blossoms. The words painted vivid images. Temples framed by pink petals, gardens moving at nature's pace instead of business schedules. When Sarah was alive, we dreamed of Kyoto. Every spring she collected photos of the philosopher's path, the light filtering through blossoms. Simon fidgeted with his napkin, glanced at his watch. That sounds incredible, Dad. How long will you stay? 6 weeks at least. Maybe longer if the wanderlust stays. A jazz quartet began playing near the bar. Music drifted over the terrace like smoke. Couples swayed on the dance floor. Ida touched Simon's hand. Darling, shall we dance? The song is lovely. Simon hesitated, looking between her and me. Go ahead, I encouraged. I'll enjoy watching. It's been years since I've seen you dance. They rose and moved to the floor, careful steps, Simon's hand trembling slightly at her waist. I leaned back, sipping wine, watching them turn in slow circles. The evening felt suspended between past achievements and future possibilities. A man in a dark suit stood by the terrace railing, eyes scanning the room with professional focus. Likely security. High-end places often hired discreet protection. The music swelled, violins blending with saxophones, weaving romance and fresh beginnings. Simon and Ada looked striking against the city lights, young, elegant. This, I thought, was success. Not accounts or accolades, but family gathered, celebrating life's victories, surrounded by beauty and possibility. My orange juice sat half-finished beside the wine, ice melting in the warm air. The restaurant's atmosphere wrapped us in comfort, soft lights, gentle conversation, silverware softly touching china. Around us, other diners spoke in low tones, their voices blending into a quiet hum of prosperity and contentment. Tomorrow I would start planning the Japan trip in earnest. Travel guides, hotel bookings, cultural research. The same careful preparation that had made Hicksa successful. But now for leisure instead of work. Simon spun Ada slowly. Her dress fanned around her legs like water. They looked content, settled, ready to build a life without relying on my company for security. Maybe this change would bring us closer. No more business friction, no inherited responsibilities, just family time, enjoying one another without corporate burdens. The security guard shifted, angling to face our table. He seemed more alert than before, watching for something I couldn't yet name. Still, nothing could ruin my mood tonight. $43 million, 42 years of work, and finally the freedom to live rather than only achieve. The jazz quartet softened as Simon and Ada continued their slow dance beneath the terrace lights. I watched with the pride of a father, remembering when Simon had been too shy to ask anyone to dance at school. A shadow fell across my table. "Excuse me for the interruption, sir." "I'm Mike, security." The man in the dark suit stood beside my chair, professional, but troubled. "Yes, what is it?" I asked. "I saw that young man pour something into your juice while you were distracted." The words landed like ice. I stared, sure I'd misheard. "What? Are you certain?" "That's my son." Mike's face stayed grave. "Unfortunately, yes." "Please be careful." My eyes dropped to the orange juice, innocent amber liquid with melting ice, the glass I'd been about to finish once Simon and Ada returned from dancing. The world tilted. Sound dulled. "You're absolutely sure?" I whispered. "I watched him do it while you were watching the musicians." He added something from a small container. Simon, my son, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the one I helped through college, had tried to poison me. Mike's voice felt distant. "Sir, are you all right?" I forced myself to focus on his concerned face. "Thank you." "What should I do?" "Don't drink anything from that glass." "Do you want me to call the police?" Police. The thought of my son arrested for attempted murder, the headlines, the public shame for the family, flashed through me. "Not yet. I need to think." Mike nodded and moved to the railing but kept his eyes on our table. My mind raced. Confrontation meant a public scene, police, media. Everything I'd built could be ruined. Doing nothing meant accepting that my son had tried to kill me. The music stopped as Simon and Ada began walking back toward the table, flushed from dancing. Time slowed. Maybe 30 seconds remained. Think like the businessman who built a $43 million company. Evidence. I needed proof before accusing my son. My hand hovered over the orange juice, then stopped. I couldn't drink it, but I could preserve it. I fished a small pill bottle from my jacket, heart medication I carried for years but seldom used, and unscrewed the cap while keeping my eyes on the approaching couple. "Did you enjoy the music?" Ada called as they neared. "Beautiful," I managed, my voice steady. In 20 seconds, the pill bottle filled with orange juice. Evidence of my son's betrayal tucked into pharmaceutical plastic. I capped it and slipped it back into my pocket. 15 seconds. What to do with the rest? The decorative plant beside our table offered an answer. I poured the remaining juice casually, as if watering the greenery in a moment of absent-minded generosity. 10 seconds. Simon and Ada reached the edge of the table. "We should do this more often," Simon said, pulling out Ada's chair. His hands looked steady now. No tremor, no sign of nerves. Whatever he'd put in my drink, he seemed convinced it had done its job. Simon settled into his seat, face lit with the satisfaction of the dance. Ada smoothed her dress, both of them watching me with expectant smiles. My own son? How could I have been so blind? But now I see the truth. That was nice, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. You both danced beautifully. The glass of orange juice in front of me sat empty. Whatever was in it now fed the restaurant's decorative plant. In my jacket pocket, the pill bottle felt like a small, heavy proof. Where's your juice, Dad? Simon asked casually, though I caught a different note beneath. Anticipation, perhaps. Finished it while watching you dance. Thirsty work. His smile slipped for a fraction of a second. I noticed. Should we order dessert? Ada chimed with forced cheer. I rose, reaching for my wallet. Actually, I think I'll call it an early night. Long day, final paperwork was exhausting. Their faces shifted from confusion to something sharper. But Dad, we just got started. Rain check. I left $300 on the table. Well over enough for the bill and a generous tip. Tonight was perfect. Thank you both. I kissed Ida's cheek and embraced Simon, my arms moving as if through water. I love you both, I said. The words carried a weight they couldn't understand. Dad, wait. Simon began to stand. Stay, finish your wine. Enjoy the music. I can find my way home, I told him, and walked away with steady steps while they watched. The weight of $43 million meant nothing beside the weight of my son's betrayal. Mike appeared at my side as I reached the restaurant interior. Smart thinking with the plant, he said quietly. Evidence preserved, threat removed. Thank you. You saved my life tonight, part of the job. Will you be all right getting home? I'll manage. The evening air felt different as I stepped onto the sidewalk, cooler, sharper, like stepping into a world where nothing was as it had seemed. Through the restaurant windows, I saw Simon and Ida leaning toward each other, mid-conversation, planning what to do next, likely rehearsing how to explain my sudden departure. I walked through Central Park, footsteps echoing on empty paths, passing occasional joggers whose breaths showed in the cooling air. The pill bottle in my pocket was more than residue from an orange juice. It was proof that the son I'd raised, educated, and supported had tried to kill me for money. $43 million worth of motive, apparently. They'd failed. Now I knew who they really were beneath the smiles. Fifth Avenue apartment buildings rose like monuments to success and betrayal. Lights winked from windows where ordinary families lived without attempted murder at dinner. My penthouse waited ahead, a sanctuary that also felt like a prison, safe from physical harm, but now full of knowledge that would change everything. Tomorrow I would decide what to do with the evidence. Tonight I needed to survive the shock that blood ties meant nothing when money was involved. The decorative plant would wilt in days, proving the juice had been poisoned. Mike would remember what he saw. The pill bottle would give lab confirmation. I had what I needed to expose the son who tried to destroy me. But first I had to understand how a father becomes his child's enemy overnight. The answer seemed to be that he'd always been the enemy. Tonight only revealed it. Manhattan's lights blurred past the taxi window as I sat in the back seat, the pill bottle heavy in my jacket. The driver hummed jazz, unaware his passenger had just escaped murder. My phone buzzed, Simon's name on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Dad, where are you? We came back and you were gone. Concern, with something else hiding beneath. Anticipation, maybe hope. Sorry, Simon, I suddenly felt ill. Went home, a pause. I hope it's nothing serious. His tone hit me like cold water, barely concealed joy pretending to be worry. My son was hoping I'd be harmed. Don't worry. I'll be fine tomorrow. Are you sure? Maybe you should see a doctor. You left so suddenly. He was fishing, testing if the poison had worked. Each word dripped with false concern while his real emotion showed through. Just tired, son. Long day with the final paperwork. Oh, right, the sale. We'll get some rest. Feel better. The line went dead. No real warmth. No genuine care. Only relief that his father might have been taken out of the way. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and leaned against the taxi's worn leather seat. $43 million, the doorman's polite greeting barely reaches me. Everything feels distant, muffled, like I'm seeing life through thick glass. The elevator carries me up to my penthouse, away from a world where sons don't poison fathers, and family isn't measured by inheritance. Inside, I lock the door with unusual care. 3 deadbolts I'd never used before tonight. The pill bottle comes out of my pocket like evidence. Under the desk lamp, the orange capsules look innocuous. Vitamin C and attempted murder occupying the same small container. I put it in the safe beside insurance papers and stock certificates. Proof of betrayal more valuable than any financial document I've guarded. I sit in my leather study chair. The same place I'd pictured peaceful retirement and exotic trips this morning. Tonight's plans are different, justice, or at least survival. The phone rings. I let it go to voicemail. Simon's voice fills the room. Dad, I'm really worried about you. Call me back. Ida sends her love. The woman who coached my son through attempted murder is sending love. I pour 3 fingers of scotch and stand at the window overlooking Central Park. Somewhere below, in a restaurant I'll never enter as an innocent man again. A decorative plant is dying from poison that was meant for me. Tomorrow, I'll need a private lab to analyze the sample, and then a lawyer who understands inheritance law and how to shield assets from murderous heirs. For now, I sit with the fact that my family tried to kill me. The scotch burns, but not as much as the truth. Outside, life goes on. People having dinner, calling relatives, living in a world where family means protection, not danger. My reflection looks older. The man who celebrated success hours ago feels gone. Someone harder has taken his place. Someone who knows blood means nothing when $43 million is at stake. Morning brings the clarity sleep could not. I wear my Navy suit and make 2 calls. Morrison Analytics, a discreet Manhattan lab, and Harold Steinberg, the estate attorney who's handled my affairs for years. Priority appointments, I tell my assistant. Morrison Analytics is on the Upper East Side. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison handles my consultation with the discretion I require. Complete toxicological analysis, gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, she explains. I hand over the pill bottle that saved my life. How long for results? 24 hours for preliminary findings, 48 for court-ready documentation. The phrase legal proceedings feels heavy. She assures me confidentiality and that attorney-client privilege can extend to forensic consultants when litigation is expected. The next day, I collect results that change everything. Potassium cyanide in lethal dosage, Dr. Morrison's report states, with graphs and technical analysis. My son attempted to kill me with one of the deadliest poisons. The report is fully admissible with chain of custody documentation, concentration levels that would have killed me within minutes, and purity consistent with professional-grade procurement, evidence of premeditation. Harold Steinberg's Midtown office smells of leather and law books. I tell him bluntly, modify my will immediately. He's managed my affairs for 15 years and understands urgency. Remove Simon and Etta as beneficiaries. Everything goes to charity. He raises an eyebrow but asks no questions. New documents are prepared, notarized, and filed within hours. The Foundation for Medical Research will inherit the $43 million. Simon and Etta will receive nothing but the knowledge that their greed cost them everything. That evening, I call Bella Vista. Giuseppe. This is Irving Hicks. A reservation for tomorrow night. The same table as Tuesday, please. Of course, Mr. Hicks, 8 o'clock. I ask Andrew to leave the plant near our table exactly as it was, the one I watered during my visit. He understands. By tomorrow night, the plant will be brown and withered, visual proof of cyanide's lethality that even Simon can't deny. I draft a letter with the precision I use to build my company. Simple, direct, devastating. Simon and Etta, it reads, I know about the cyanide. Mike Riley witnessed your poisoning attempt. The toxicology report confirms attempted murder. My will has been changed. You are no longer my heirs. The $43 million will benefit medical research. You chose greed over family. Now you have neither. Irving. The envelope is sealed with wax, an old-fashioned finality fitting the contents. Tomorrow I will return to the scene of their crime not as a victim, but as a judge delivering sentence. On Thursday evening, Bella Vista feels charged, an undercurrent of impending justice. I arrive at 8, the sealed envelope tucked inside my jacket. Giuseppe escorts me to our usual terrace table, the same where my son tried to kill me. The decorative plant nearby is brown and brittle, its leaves curled and lifeless from Tuesday's poisoned irrigation. Perfect evidence. Simon and Ida arrive 10 minutes later, their faces carrying the faint satisfaction of people who think they got away with murder. Simon in a black suit, Ida smoothing her dress, hands that helped plan my death. "Dad, you look well," Simon says, surprise crossing his features. "Better than expected, you mean?" They sit, unaware of the envelope and the dead plant that will speak louder than any argument. The evening breeze carried the scent of fading flowers and broken trust. "How are you feeling?" Ida's voice carried a false note of concern. "Simon was so worried about your sudden illness." I pointed to the withered plant beside us. "It's remarkable what poison does to living things, isn't it?" Their eyes followed my gesture, settling on the twisted remains of what had been healthy greenery only 3 days ago. Simon's face lost all color. "That plant received special care Tuesday night," I continued evenly. "Orange juice mixed with potassium cyanide, the same blend you intended for me." Ida's grip tightened on her napkin, her knuckles turning white against the linen. I raised an envelope, holding it like an official document. "This contains everything about your failed attempt." Simon's hands shook as he accepted it, fumbling with the wax seal before tearing it open. I studied his face, watching as realization broke him. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came. "What is this?" His voice cracked. Ida leaned closer, reading the letter that dismantled their future with cold, business-like clarity. "Dad, wait." "This was all, Ida." I cut him off sharply. "Mike Riley saw you pour the cyanide. The toxicology report proves attempted murder. You chose money over family. I looked at the son who tried to kill me, and at the woman who planned it with him. You wanted my $43 million. It will fund medical research instead. You wanted me dead. But now, you're dead to me." Simon half rose from his chair, panic making his movements clumsy. "Please, Dad, I can explain." "Goodbye, Simon. Forever." I walked away from the table without looking back, leaving them with their broken future and the evidence of their crime. Behind me, Simon's desperate pleas faded into meaningless noise. At the restaurant's entrance, Josip appeared as I approached. "Will you be returning, Mr. Hicks?" "No, my business here is done." The evening air felt lighter as I stepped outside. Central Park stretched ahead, filled with plain shadows and honest darkness. No poison, no murderous relatives, no betrayal dressed as love. Just the beginning of a life where justice outweighed family. My phone would ring that night, again and again. Simon and Ida would beg, threaten, promise anything to undo the truth. I would not answer. The $43 million had given me more than freedom from pretense. It had shown me who my son truly was, and given me the power to walk away. The city lights sparkled like scattered diamonds as I walked home. Alone, yes, but no longer vulnerable. Justice, I realized, tasted far better than revenge. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box to the left. Thank you for watching.